Well, welcome, Woven Ones. This is Generations Woven, where the voices of three generations blend into one tapestry of truth, laughter, love, and life. We spend so much time in our lives answering to titles like mom, manager, wife, caretaker, even father if we're single moms, fixer. But what happens when the titles fall away? Who are you underneath all of that? That's what we're going to talk about today. Who are you without the
Invisible thread
titles?
that ties us all through the rises, through the falls. We are stronger when we stand as one, together shining like the sun. Generations woven hand in
Nerina,
hand.
would you like to share what your moment was when you rediscovered yourself?
Sure. So that moment for me when I felt lost, invisible, was probably when I felt like I had this red t shirt on with this big D on it that said, "Your title is divorced." And that was a tough one because not only was I divorced, I was a single mom. Um, and that has always been the one thing that I never imagined my life to be like. But it also gave me a really good opportunity to look in spite of that, what could I do with that title of being divorced? And even though it was a hard time, I had to find other parts of myself that in spite of the divorce, um, I could focus on and become, which normally in a marriage, that's not necessarily what you do. So the fear of making it on your own, being in charge of everything, that title wasn't one that I embraced at the beginning. But as you grow into an event like that, you become something so much stronger and so much, I don't want to say better, but better too. That today I'm really thankful for that. Um, I'm going to give a plug in here for my book that's coming up in Q1 of 2026, which talk about who are you when the music stops. And for me, I had to look at who did I become every time I was in a relationship to make the relationship work, whether that was, a spouse or a friend or a child. And I didn't like the titles that I gave myself. And I really needed to say, well, who are you? Um, and the question is, who do you think I am? And I had to do a lot of soul searching to figure out who that was. But I'm really happy with what I found. It was painful, but it's good. And if I had to do it over again, I would, because I like where I am right now. And if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be who I am today. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it was good.
Could could you walk us through that moment when you realized that you and your daughter were going to be okay?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's so many moments when you look back and you remember that you were not okay. But there was a moment actually when we came back from a trip um, in Africa, and I still have the cutout. It's a blackboard in the shape of Africa. And this was 2016. And I remember I wrote on that blackboard, what if nothing is wrong? And I remember when I brought it back and I put it up in my house and I looked at that and I thought, what if nothing is wrong? But this is the pivot moment where I get to look past the moment of now. And I think it was that moment when I actually put it in my house and I'm like, okay, it's not wrong. It's just different.
Yeah.
And I think that moment was when I took ownership of where I was and where the change slowly started to happen to embrace the new. So I think it
Yeah.
was that moment.
How did that feel?
It feels good, and I still have that in my bathroom.
Oh,
And I look at that sometimes and, when I go through a situation and it just doesn't feel good or there's just too much going on, I look at that and I'm like, Nerina, what if nothing is wrong? Just embrace it. And I think that took the pressure off. So, yeah,
yeah.
definitely that
That's
moment.
that's such good advice. I
Yeah.
like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really pretty.
Well, what about you?
I feel like we're constantly rediscovering ourselves,
Yeah.
right? I can look back and think about 100 times that I've rediscovered myself over, my 37 years. But I mean, even taking it to most recently. So just the most recent one is really, this uh, in April of 2025.
Mhm.
And getting to the point where, I was just going through the motions of life, right? I did my job. We, went and did stuff, but like it was just a constant like standard thing, right? I had my kids, but I wasn't putting as much effort into things that I wanted to. So
Mm.
it was really just a turning point of me realizing like what's my next step? Like what's next? And uh I'm looking back at the last, this last year, it's just been a huge churn of events. And I recently went to, I was at a class at a local church, and somebody was talking about how we're put where we are at that moment for a reason. And so it kind of brought perspective back to, okay, like I've known since forever that I've wanted to help people.
Mm.
And, my first job was a tutor. So I was in high school and I tutored, I think, third graders. And I did that for probably a year, that school year before I went and got another job, because I was like 15 at that point. And I've always wanted to help people. Well, then I, kind of shifted and went into a career where I went from healthcare into um, corporate for the money. And
Mm.
so I was at the point, right? It's like I shifted to be like, well, this is where the money is, right? And so I shifted and in the last year I'd been thinking like, am I really on the right path? But that kind of brought, realization to me of like, yes, I am. Like it doesn't matter where I am,
Mm.
whatever path I'm on, like wherever I'm rediscovering, whatever I'm changing, like that's where I'm meant to be. And it made it so much easier to just bring that perspective to life and be able to deal with what I'm dealing with every day and find the passion again, right? So like that's where I think, kind of rediscovering yourself, like there's always the rainbow on the other end. You
Mhm.
just have to look for it. Like the grass is greener where you are as long as you are looking for the green grass. So,
I like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So Judy, when did you rediscover yourself? How how many
Wow.
times?
Wow. Yeah. I remember as a young woman, I had was married, had 5 children, and my baby of the 5 was a few weeks old. And not that it was planned, but the marriage just did not go forward. And so I found myself as a single mom of 5 children, which wasn't what I'd signed up for in the beginning. But you know what? As women, we pull ourselves up and we go with the deal we're handed. It's like the deal that we're dealt is what we have to work with, and we don't have all the answers. But I remember I was so busy. I mean, I was mom. Sometimes had to be dad because he wasn't there, and I was a student. I went back to college. I was a fixer. I helped with homework. I made the meals. I did the laundry, and I never forget one day a lady asked me, "Are you a human being or are you a human doer?"
Mm.
And I go, "Wow, yeah, I was so busy doing, I was in survival mode. I didn't have a chance to be." And so I sort of disappeared. I was on the back burner. There was no time to take care of me. I was so busy taking care of everyone else. And so that was a moment in time where you step up to the plate, you do what you got to do, you get through it. But then as time goes on and life evolves, children grow, they start leaving home, and, they go to college or they have their own homes. And pretty soon I had an empty nest, and the silence was deafening.
Mm.
And then I had me.
Mm.
So how did you how did you deal with that? What was the feeling there?
I was afraid.
Mm.
I didn't like the feeling of being alone. That quiet was deafening. I was so used to so much motion in the house that and yet it was probably one of the biggest growths in my life because I had to be still. I had to get to know me. I had to start feeling comfortable in my own skin, not relying on some role I had to play to
Mhm.
fit in. I just had a chance to be still and to hear what God's purpose was in my life other than just keep doing. And the rest of my life has unfolded step by step, and I'm so glad that I was able to step up to the plate and do what I had to do and be a human doing for a while until it was time to be a human being and to be real and to help people along their
Mhm.
way.
When did you finally get to be a human being? Please don't tell me it was this month because I
Well,
really
no,
wanna
last
get there
a month
sooner.
ago, no.
Oh. Don't tell
Actu
me I gotta wait that long.
I think it's when all the children were gone and I had that quietness in the house. You have to start figuring out what really matters to you, not just be doing something for someone else to fix their
Mhm.
situation or to meet their needs. And it's sort of a beautiful place to get to when
Mm.
you start being come valuable to yourself.
Yeah.
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 I think the concept of discovering your self-worth during a time like that, I love that statement of what self-worth means when nobody is clapping. I mean, I grew up in an extremely um, outcome-driven family. It's
Mhm.
just that's just who we are. Um, and I felt like the clapping came when I performed well.
Mm.
Well, I don't think anyone was clapping for me when I was keeping all the kids going and all that. I mean, I wasn't getting any accolades on that one, but
Yeah, I definitely different perspectives, right? Because you referring to like when you're growing up, right? And good grades,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
Reward, and you're doing good in sports or doing good in these things, right? It's
Mhm.
that constant like push.
Yes.
And versus when you're like a mom,
Yeah.
yeah, no one's
No
no
one's
one's
clapping.
clapping for us. We clap for
Oh,
ourselves. That's what we've got to do.
Yeah, I
yeah.
We
think
have to remember.
you need to rally a couple of other moms and we'll clap for each other because we
Yeah.
know how hard it is. But coming back to what you're saying about the being, I know for myself, it's the do, be, have. And at some point in your life, you realize that's not a good formula. I like the be, do, have. I want to be first, and then I'll do things, and then I'll have what I want to have.
Hmm.
Not do, do, do. I don't want to have
No one
any.
wants doo doo.
No, exactly. Yeah, definitely not.
That was a
But
good one.
but our but
Thanks.
our
That wasn't in the
society
script. No.
our society pushes that. You're successful when you do. And you get to a point and you go, "Who am I?" And you're not gonna discover that when you just do all the time. You
Right.
need some stillness for that, time to reflect. So, yeah, no, we don't want any more doo-doo. That's we're good. We're good with that. So the being part is you need to give
Mm.
yourself that stillness gift.
Yeah, even now, even with having 5 kids at home, right? If somebody could have told you
Mhm.
when you had 5 children at home, like, "Hey, take some time for yourself. Take some time
Well,
to be."
that's a good point because I think even as you get older and you get busy with things, I don't know when I had time to work,
Mhm.
that point. I think you have to schedule a time for what's important to you.
Yeah.
And you have to put yourself in that category.
Mm.
Schedule. I don't care if it's an hour. For me, it's important to have time to pray and meditate every morning. And if I don't schedule that into
Mm.
my day first thing,
Mhm.
I'm sort of lost the
Yeah.
rest of the
And
day.
it's not going to happen then.
Yeah.
No,
And
Yeah.
you're right.
and if you're not doing that stuff for yourself, how are you showing up for others?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the thing that I think I've learned on my, my new transformational journey is is that I can show up better for others when I take care of myself.
Mm.
And I think that's something that at any point in your life, right? Like I want teenagers to know this. Like take care of yourself because that's all you've got the rest of your life, right? Like you've
Mm.
got you and you've got to be able to show up for everyone else and you can't show up
Exactly.
if you're drowning in
Well,
doing.
you know the old saying, if your emotional tank's empty, you have nothing to give to
Yeah.
anyone else.
Mm,
So you got to
Fill yourself
fill
first.
yourself
fill
first
yourself. I
to
like that.
protect yourself, and then
It's
you have overflowing to give others. Yeah.
it's that
Mhm.
thing in the airplane that they tell you, your oxygen mask needs to go on you first
Yeah.
before you do it for anybody
Oh,
else.
good point.
And I remember the first time I heard that, I'm
Great
like, well, what about the
metaphor.
little baby? No, the baby will be okay, but you need to be okay first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's nothing going on to
Yep.
that little baby's face.
That's a great metaphor.
Yeah. But I also want to say, we have different ages here, and Judy and I would like to say, I think we've made enough mistakes. I don't know if I was always open to people giving me good advice and following that.
Hmm.
So, Tasha, listen to our mistakes so you don't have to make them.
I'm trying. That's great about having, mentors of in different ways,
Walks of
right?
life.
Different generations, different
Yeah.
walks of life, right?
Yeah.
It's great to like pull from people, like great mentors, like in work, right?
Yeah.
We all have people at work that I hope everyone has people at work that they
Mhm.
can look up to, but also finding those people in your own community
Yeah.
and outside of your own family,
Yeah.
because sometimes they're not blood, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Friends by blood or by choice.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think women, for so long, I overlooked the pearls of wisdom that they had, that they carried with them, because I thought I knew what was best for me. Well, obviously, I made the same mistakes over and over and over, expecting different results. And as we all know, that's insanity. So hopefully, young ones listening to us, we've made our share of mistakes, and we just want you to go about life and be strong and to learn from some of the things we've done the hard way,
Mhm.
not to have to do all that. So
Yeah.
anyway, if everything was stripped away from you today, all the roles, the job, the expectations, what would still be true about you? Think about that. That's your thread. Hang on to it. Until next
There's
time,
an
God bless.
invisible thread that ties us all.